Good evening. Welcome to the 54th Annual Historical Debate. I'm your host, Lady Gaga. Today's debate subject, Ireland, under Eamon de Valera's rule. Let's bring out our debaters. In this corner, all the way over from Ireland, we have the great-grandson of Eamon de Valera himself, Kyle de Valera, who also spends time in his frat at his college in Ireland. And in this corner, we have self-proclaimed expert on Ireland during the Second World War, Christina Aguilera. Thank you both for coming out tonight. We will begin the debate with opening statements from both debaters. First, a statement from Christina Aguilera.
Thank you. Tim Pat Coogan argues that de Valera did little that was useful and much that was harmful. Although he may have been successful in creating an independent Ireland, small farmers and rural lower class greatly suffered from his policies during World War II, as well as from Fianna Fáil's ineffectiveness in achieving its previously stated ambitions, such as creating a self-sufficient economy.
And now, a statement from Kyle de Valera.
First off, Gaga, thank you for having me out here. Great honor to be here today. My opening statement, simple. De Valera dominated Irish politics from the 1930s to the 1950s. Jolie correctly argues that he led Fianna Fáil with superb tactical judgment. This is clearly demonstrated through his foreign affairs policies, effectiveness in leading a party catered towards the working class, and creating an independent Ireland.
We will now move on to the question portion of our debate. How effective was Fianna Fáil in creating opportunities for the rural and working class in Ireland under de Valera's rule?
Well, if we take a look at our trusty Irish Bible here, specifically pages 674 to 675, we can see that there was some neglect towards widows and orphans. This small amount that was given under the Widows and Orphans Pension Act of 1935 did not even increase until 1942. There was also the 1941 Trade Unions Act, which limited the rights of unions to negotiate strikes. Listen, Christina, you've got it all wrong, okay? I've got the Irish Bible too. If you go to that page 674, you'll see that there was a commitment to economic protectionism and welfare policies, which created 50,000 new jobs by 1939 under that result of protectionism. There was the Workmen's Compensation Act of 1934 and Conditions of Employment Act of 1936, improving working conditions, paid holidays, and preventing exploitation of child labor. And lastly, the housing program. This was, according to Mary Daly, one of Fianna Fáil's most impressive accomplishments.
Question 2. How effective was Fianna Fáil as a party in its accomplishments as a whole under de Valera's rule?
So Fianna Fáil as a party was incredibly effective. If we look at this book, it states that Ireland had achieved industrialization by 1950 when the share of external trade in Ireland's economy had risen by about 1/3. De Valera also drafted the Irish Constitution, allowing for equality before the law, the right to protest, and the protection of marriage. He also maintained that Ireland was a country of 32 counties instead of pointing at the divide between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland. And then he was successful in his foreign policy, especially in World War II, achieving complete independence from Britain. Yes, it is true an independent Ireland was created. However, the question is, was Fianna Fáil effective in its accomplishments and what it was intended to accomplish? And that answer is no. Yes, it was independent, but it was not self-sufficient as it was hoped to be. Page 676 of our Bible states that the economic policies did not achieve self-sufficiency because of the reliance on imports for industrial raw materials and dependence on Britain for export of agricultural produce. This reliance on foreign trade caused small farmers to lose a lot of money and goods. And then talk about how Fianna Fáil, Dave Valera wanted to revitalize the Irish language. That did not happen nearly as much as he wanted it to. The Irish language was not used often outside of the classroom.
Question 3. How successful was the policy of neutrality during the Second World War under Dave Valera's rule?
It was successful mainly in, as we spoke about in class, proving their independence to Britain, as well as not being on the losing side. And they were able to do this all while still making some connections to the Allied forces. And this was great because they didn't take any major losses. And it created sovereignty and the emergence of pride and neutrality. Well, yes, it's true that neutrality was helpful in that Ireland would not suffer a lot from the war. However, according to Brian Girvin on page 682, he states that it was likely that Ireland could have joined the Allies with little cost and could have achieved a united Ireland by the end of the war in the process. And then not only that, but what were the effects of the war on Irish economy? On page 717, it states that neutrality caused economic stagnation and privation. The agricultural and industrial industries suffered greatly because of the shortage of imported materials and fuel needed for food production and distribution. Yes, they were able to prove independence, but at what cost?
Now please, let each candidate give their closing remarks.
Although Dave Valera had many successes as party leader of Fianna Fáil, there were still gaps in his leadership, especially looking at working class conditions, the things that his party set out to accomplish and fell short of, and the economic status of Ireland during the Second World War. I think that it's clear that under his rule, the party of Fianna Fáil was successful in its strategy of neutrality in the Second World War. It's one of its most greatest accomplishments, creating the housing project in the 1930s and creating thousands of new jobs.
Thank you for watching our 54th annual historical debate. I've been your host, Lady Gaga. Thank you to our debaters, and we'll see you next time at the 55th annual historical debate. Thank you.